Another medium mountain stage. Bora Hansgrohe play their cards differently, trying to launch Primoz Roglic today on terrain that suited him. This was stage 11. They do a circuit of short, medium mountain climbs that are irregular. The last one is 3Ks, 9%, very close to the finish with a fast pedaling descent, and then about 3Ks of flat to the finish in Padron. But it also looked like a good breakaway opportunity for almost all the teams here. Campenaerts got ahead early. He was chased by Narvaez on Ineos. There's Izagirre. Israel had Corbin Strong, Visma with Vuelta, and Israel throw numbers up the road. Frigo gets up. Remember his name. Frigo for Israel, and Eddie Dunbar bridge across when the break, I thought it already formed, but the roads were so wide on these highways that these counter moves just kept coming. It was open season. Equipo Confama. Hermans gets bridged across by Alpecin, de Koenig. Eventually the breakaway. This is already the break, 40 men deep or so, but still riders are jumping. And it's actually George Bennett with Patrick Gamper on his wheel, and maybe Max Poole, Brandon Rivera for sure goes. Now Decathlon try to put the block on, but the block doesn't work. Rafferty sneaks through, and then I think Carapaz is coming up on the left to block himself, but the Decathlon rider drifts across, the trees obscure it, and crash Carapaz, or he crashes himself. I don't know exactly, the tree blocked it, but basically Decathlon tried to put the block on. They got some yellow cards for it, deservedly. And Israel were pretty happy with this situation. They had 4 riders in the breakaway, as you can see, including their best placed GC rider, George Bennett, on 9 minutes 50. 16th, but also not that far from the top 10, only about 3 minutes, and he virtually went into the top 5 or top 4 on this stage. Murasa tried to anticipate for Alpecin, with Hermans the quickest sprinter in the group, but Israel just locked this breakaway down. Really, really impressive from Strong. Then Frigo. Frigo was an absolute fridge unit today, although they did try to get a few other teams to pull, but no one was willing to do it. Why would they? Danny Martinez there, as well as Nico Denz for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. So they had 3 in the break. They weren't pulling, and Danny Martinez not really good enough to go for a stage win in the shape he's in at the moment. Movistar start to chase as the gap gets out of control. They don't want another Ben O'Connor situation. And it looks like we're going to the final climb altogether, although Nico Denz pulls out. He pulls out of the pace line. They're about 20 Ks from the final climb, and he's sort of like, I'm done, but it's on the flat. No way he's dropping. And then we see he has a P break, and then he and Gamper just wait, and no one else was dropping. It wasn't like a hard pace. So what was he or Bora and Roglic cooking up? Frigo keeps it together. DSM also wanted it together. They were going all out for Max Poole, it seemed. Campenaerts did try to anticipate. Once didn't work. Second time does work, though. He goes across with Brandon Rivera, and then another counter move gets across with Verona, Zana, and Berardi, and they make a big difference in this stage to the best climbers, who I think was McNulty in the group behind, that this Fuga gets about 10 seconds, and then Berardi and Verona are very, very strong, we've seen throughout this Vuelta, and so George Bennett's not just going to chase all out with everyone in his wheel, and now McNulty's having to chase, but he doesn't want to chase with, you don't want to chase with Jonathan Narvaez in your wheel when it's still not an uphill finish, it's a sprint finish. Or you could get countered by Max Poole or Izagirre or Vuelta or anybody, so very, very cagey affair on the climb, and actually it's a way bigger group because of the undulations and the stop-start than I expected with 500 meters to go. So Berardi, Poole I think bridges across, and Verona go clear. Jonathan Narvaez snap closes to them. McNulty's pacing behind with Hermans on the back of that group, and Hermans tries to do the same, or does do the same thing as Narvaez. As soon as Narvaez gets across and starts to pull, you can see Hermans has tagged onto the back, whereas McNulty is having to pace with everybody in his wheel. But because McNulty does that and these guys falter in the Flamme Rouge, still 20 guys could win the stage. Who's tired? Who's fresh? Eddie Dunbar makes the perfect move on the right-hand side using the momentum. He's obviously not going to win a sprint, nor is Zana. And crucially, Berardi moves across, blocks the barrier to the right. Verona moves across, blocks the barrier. Both those riders had just been in the move, too tired to respond. That allows Dunbar to get the gap, and once he has it, Poole reacts too late. He's got Hermans in his wheel, and Dunbar wins the biggest race of his career ahead of a very strong breakaway. But back in the GC group, Bora on the same climb. They dropped Enns and Gamper back for a reason. It was to position Roglic into the base of the climb and do the hardest lead out possible. Rouge Adria seemed a bit better today in the cooler temperatures compared to last week. Aliotti was very good again, but maybe they got the order wrong. Aliotti pacing before Adria. Should have been the other way around, perhaps. And they got it strung out. Positioning crucial, irregular climb, and they basically put everyone on the limit. Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe with Aliotti's pull, and then when it's Vlasov's pull, he puts people over the limit. Sivakov's got a gap in front of him, and Ricky Mas has gone to Roglic wheel. He knows there's a gap, and Vlasov has done not the hard work, but the important work. And so masterclass from Red Bull. The way they dropped the guys back from the breakaway, the way Vlasov used his strength on this sort of climb to drop everybody and then allow Roglic to ride his tempo. And O'Connor, he gets dropped. This is from the chase group, not from the Roglic group. How much time was he going to lose on just a 3K 9% climb? Catania, the Soudal Quickstep, huge performance from him. He's pulling the Landa group, which actually dropped O'Connor at that time. And so with O'Connor having no teammates, no GC guys to help him, it's Florian Lipovic on his wheel. Landa, Godu and Skjelmose are getting across to Mas and Roglic. It was looking dangerous for O'Connor, which is probably what Lipovic was relaying on the radio over the top of the Puerto Cruceras. We got 3.6 Ks or 5 Ks to the finish. And who's this? Dani Martinez from the breakaway waits on the descent for the flat section as a satellite rider for Roglic and just gets this moving. You know, all the other Skjelmose and Landa are gassed. Rodriguez is coming back. They need a bit of time to recover. But then once they get to the flat section, they've had 3-4 minutes recovery. They're like, why wouldn't we pull? It's O'Connor behind and Sivakov and Carapaz behind, so everyone else begins to relay, and such a small climb is actually quite important with Skjelmose, but more importantly Roglic taking 37 seconds on Ben O'Connor. Not all the time he would have wanted, and still a big margin to make up on GC, but every little helps. Dunbar wins the stage ahead of Hermans, Poole, Narvaez, Berardi, Zana, Izagirre, Verona, Garofoli and McNulty. Here's what he had to say after the stage.
Yeah, it's weird how it goes sometimes, you know. I had a really bad start to the race and I lost a lot of time. I came here to ride GC and I learned pretty quick that I probably didn't have the legs to do it, and my preparation was really good here, so then it was kind of just reassess and go for a stage. And today came an opportunity that I didn't expect, because I tried hard at the start to get in the break, and I just thought that was my legs gone, and then all of a sudden the big group went, and I thought me and Pipo rode very well in the break and we were really smart, and here we are. I actually can't believe it.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Strange stage tomorrow, 15k, 4% uphill finish. I think probably a breakaway, but who knows? Anything can happen in this Vuelta. It's so exciting. See you with a recap then. Ciao.